Most church members, even some church leaders, hold assumptions about church staff that simply aren't true. Today, we're going to bust 10 of the most common myths about church staff culture and why they matter more than you think, because these misconceptions are silently wrecking morale and causing burnout and undermining ministry impact. Hi there, my name is Todd Rhodes. I'm one of the co-founders over at chemistrystaffing.com, and I am your host here on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Okay, do you ever think that your church staff is just always fulfilled, always available, and just in it for the calling? Well, think again, because we're going to talk today about the 10 most common misconceptions that I see that are silently crushing church culture. And today, on this podcast, right now in the next few minutes, we're going to call them out. All right, here's the truth. There's a lot of power in culture. A strong staff culture is not a luxury. It is absolutely mission critical in a healthy church. In fact, studies show that healthy teams are about 31% more productive and have 3 times higher retention rates. So when your staff thrives, your entire church thrives. So it's time that we recognize church staff as people, not just as spiritual role fillers. All right, so we're going to look at 10 different misconceptions about church staff. And the first misconception is church staff aren't real professionals. Okay, that sounds crazy, right? But we might not say it that way, but a lot of times people look at church staff like that. Church staff are theologians, counselors, marketers, administrators, tech experts, sometimes all in one day. They're not just passionate volunteers. They're trained and they're capable and they're deeply skilled. We need to invest in their development in the way that we would any other professional, with training and with coaching and encouragement, because church staff, that's a profession and it's legit. Okay, it's a real deal. So that's misconception number 1. Here's misconception number 2, is that church staff are always on. Okay, many feel pressure to be available 24/7, especially if you're a solo pastor or you're pastoring in a small church. And what that does is it leads to burnout. We've talked about this many times here on the podcast. Boundaries are not selfish. They're sustainable ministry in action. So you need to encourage yourself, encourage your staff to rest, and you need to model it from the top down. Okay, so that's misconception number 2. We're going to go right through these because I don't know why I pick topics like this where I have 10 different points. It's, oh my goodness, how am I going to get through all of these? So I tend to rush. So if you need to go back and listen, you can go back and listen or watch again. Misconception number 3 is that church staff don't need recognition. What? A thank you, a thanks goes a long way. So many staff leave not for the money, not because of the money, because they're being underpaid, although some do, but it's because they feel invisible. So we need to celebrate wins. We need to write notes. We need to publicly affirm them. If you're on a staff, encourage your other staff members. If you go to a church and you're listening to this, make sure that you affirm your staff members. Publicly affirm them when you can, because recognition isn't just fluff. Just like you in your role, they need that kind of recognition from time to time too, because it's fuel. It's fuel for them, okay? Misconception number 4. This is a good one. Church staff are all the same, right? Your youth pastor and your financial admin do not see the world in the same way. Different personalities, different strengths, different wirings. And great leadership recognizes that one size doesn't fit all. In fact, one size fits no one, okay? So misconception number 5. Church staff can do it all. They can do everything. Can they do everything? Maybe. Really sharp people can do a lot of different things, but should they do everything? No, they shouldn't. Absolutely not. High expectations with low support, again, a recipe for burnout. So let's make sure that we empower your team, make sure we empower our staffs by delegating and collaborating and just straight out saying no when we need to. Okay? Misconception number 6, church staff should be content with less. Okay, you're in ministry. I believe in some circles they call this the vow of poverty, right? They shouldn't care about money. Yikes. Just yikes. Ministry is a calling, but fair compensation is a reflection of value. So we need to make sure that we pay people what they're worth. Sure, they're in ministry, but they have families. They have kids that need braces and want to play the saxophone, and all different kinds of, they play ball. They have expenses just like you and your family do. So make sure you pay your church staff what they're worth. Don't feel like you can give them a cut rate because they're serving Jesus or they're in ministry. All right. Misconception number 7, church staff don't need any training. Would you hire a plumber and say, here's my leaky toilet. I know you've not actually been a plumber before. Could you just figure it out and I'll pay you the $75 an hour? Of course not. You would never do that. Church staff need regular, targeted, practical training in their area of ministry because it builds confidence, it sparks creativity, and it boosts morale. Training equals investment, which equals impact. Okay, here we are. Just our last 3 here, and I'll get you on with your day here. Misconception number 8, church staff should be happy all the time. Okay, that's just not possible. We're human, we have emotions, we have struggles, we have good days, we have bad days. A healthy church culture says you don't have to fake it. If you're having a bad day, it's okay. Now, if you have a string of bad days for 6 months, then we're going to have a conversation. But let's normalize that honesty on our teams and on our staff. Let's encourage counseling when counseling is needed. And let's open up some space for some of that vulnerability. Okay? Next is the last one, misconception number 9. Church staff are above accountability. Sometimes church staff culture gets sloppy. They're on staff, so they know better. That's wrong. Clarity and accountability aren't just for volunteers. They're for everybody. No one is above the law, right? So set the bar, communicate it clearly, hold each other to it. It's very imperative for a healthy church culture. And then lastly, and not leastly, church staff aren't real people. They have families. We mentioned this before. They have health issues. They have dreams. They have bills. They're more than a title. They're more than a Sunday role. And if we want a thriving staff, we have to lead with empathy. If you're on a board, you need to lead your staff with empathy. If you're a senior pastor, you need to lead your staff with empathy, not just with high expectations. Okay? So this is really a call to rebuild staff culture. We need to break some of those myths. We need to see your team clearly. You need to build a culture where your staff doesn't just survive, but flourish. Want to go deeper? I've got some resources and tools that can help you take the next step. You can find those over at chemistrystaffing.com. There's a resources tab there where you can find all of our podcasts, all of our help. And if you have any questions about church staff health, that's one of the things that we do here at Chemistry Staffing is we will come alongside, and if you've got a part of maybe a troubled staff member or a trouble with your culture, we can help come in and diagnose with some toolkits and some benchmarks to try and help you determine, first of all, where you are realistically, and then determine where you need to go and those steps in between. Sometimes that's hard to do when you're right smack dab in the middle of it, but we can come alongside you and help you to do that. If you'd like to talk with me about how to do that in your church and how we might be able to help, just reach out to me, Todd Rhodes. You can reach out to me. podcast@chemistrystaffing.com is the email address. podcast@chemistrystaffing.com. All right, thanks so much. We're here every day, Monday through Friday on the Healthy Church Staff Podcast. Hope you'll join me right here again tomorrow.